You just made $250,000 at 24 years old. You're killing it in sales. When did it dawn on you that that would merge really well with your real estate ambitions and helping people invest?
It's a crazy time. 90% of real estate agents drop out in the first couple of years.
Actually being successful, the odds are stacked against you.
Interest rates have shot up, double, triple to what they were. Oh no, the market's gonna crash. We're gonna go into a depression. It's always a good time to buy, but it depends on what your goals are, the avenues that you take. Got my real estate license when I was 20. There's a lot of people here that make a lot of money at a young age. Saw the opportunity to go in and just help people. Done. This is sweet.
We the top 10. UG get the major way, not play it, don't stop him.
Chris Hansen, welcome to the podcast. Yeah, you're welcome, dude. I've been looking forward to this one because, with the other sales guys, we end up just talking only about sales. And obviously there's a wide array of principles you can talk about with that, but you have a very special, specific set of skills. And, what is the line from? I was trying to quote Taken, but I don't think I got it right. With Liam Neeson, what does he say? You have a very specific set of skills.
I just know that I will find you and I will kill you.
Yeah, that one. Whatever he says there, I'm sure I just botched it. But I'm excited about this one because your expertise is not just sales and management, although that is a big part of it. It's real estate and investing, and so I was hoping we could talk some principles of real estate and investing, using your money wisely,
sure, and
just kind of see where that goes. But yeah,
super down.
Welcome to the podcast.
I'm excited, man. It's been a long time since we've had a one-on-one combo, shoot the breeze kind of thing. So I'm excited. Thanks.
Yeah, we tried to do one digitally that was just kind of less. I guess I don't know. I didn't feel quite as good as in person. So here we are. Okay. Well, can you just walk us down kind of your journey of like what got you here? And let's start off with like why people should listen to you. So from what I understand, you made well over $250,000 this year, all in everything.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah. And, based on that, like how old are you?
24.
24 years old and made $250,000. That's like obviously impressive for anyone, but especially for someone as young as you. Walk me through how you got here. So what got you into like sales? Why do you like the combo of sales and real estate? And what's like the mission driving the things that you do?
Yeah. Just growing up, I got really obsessed with learning and real estate. My family moved around a lot, and each time we'd move, they say, "Hey, Chris, can you help us find a house?" So I just look on Zillow, and
really,
I would spend, I wouldn't say hours, but a lot of time just looking for fun because I love the idea of big houses and whatever. So kind of started the interest for me.
So you would be the one that would like scout out the houses for your family to buy everywhere you would
never
move?
Actually bought one of the houses that I showed them, but we looked at a few of them.
You were involved in the research at least?
Yeah. It's something that I really like to do. And
cool.
Watching HGTV and all the house hunter shows. So it's kind of where it started from.
Yeah.
In school, I graduated from BYU in the finance program, and I got introduced to some professors, mentors there that are big into entrepreneurship and real estate. So I've always had big goals in my life.
Yeah.
And passionate about that kind of stuff and investing in finances and money.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was looking for opportunities. I got my real estate license. I did an commercial real estate internship at the top investing brokerage in the country, which was a cool experience.
Cool.
And I ended up getting my real estate license when I was 20. And just it's gone from there. I got introduced to sales from a friend of mine. And it's funny, you know the story, but I ended up signing with another company, a pest control company, and a ton of others. I had close family friends at other companies that were the big dogs.
Yeah. They're all the big dogs.
Yeah. And then I got connected with you and Adam, and just your guys' message really resonated with me. And I really saw the opportunity for real estate and sales to work together.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of people here that make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say at a young age? And saw the opportunity to go in and just help people and be able to do that. So
that's huge. When did you realize that there would be that crossover between like you doing sales, but building a sales program and giving value to sales reps who are going to be high earners, high income, but also maybe even future business partners too, because of the connections there. When did it dawn on you that like that would merge really well with your real estate ambitions and helping people invest wisely and properly? Yeah,
it was honestly when after I got my real estate license and I was more familiar with the sales, door-to-door sales world. And I thought, thinking about ways to generate leads, right?
Yeah,
honestly, because like 90% of real estate agents drop out in the first couple of years. Like it's stupid. It's ridiculous because everyone's like, oh, I have some extra time. I'll get my real estate license and I probably have some friends that, will buy a house. Right.
Yeah.
And then they just drop out because they don't know how much work it actually takes and how much knowledge and expertise you actually need to have. And you actually have to be a good realtor, real estate agent to help people.
Not to cut you off, but it's relevant to this is I saw a stat literally last night because I was joking with Sarah. I was like, real estate agents have probably had the easiest job in the world in the last 5 years specifically. And so nobody knows how good they actually are at like selling houses. But I saw this.
That's so true.
Right? Because of the way the market is.
In the next couple of years,
you're going to see who's really good at being 100%. Who the really good agents are, just like in anything, frankly. I'm excited to see that for our own industry too, dude. It's like blood in the streets. That's when we eat the weak.
Totally.
According to Tillman Fertitta, he says that. So there's a stat that there's like 1.2 million registered agents in the United States, something along those lines. Someone fact check me on this. 1.2 million registered agents. 850,000 of them did not make a dime last year or over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just probabilistically, like becoming a real estate agent and actually being successful, like I suppose in any worthwhile endeavor, the odds are stacked against you. But it's like, it takes a lot, And so that is one of those things you come in, you're like, okay, well, how do I get leads basically? Yeah. And obviously starting with the business proposition of like, what's the most effective way to give leads and give value to people? That's like a healthy, I think, paradigm or frame of reference to start with. Mm-hmm. But that's what you saw, right? You're like, if I can work with these people and give value to them in this way, then that will help me serve my mission of, it's not just about the leads, obviously, but it's like, that's the top end of the funnel.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, I cut you off there, but that was you saw that as the chance to develop really high quality leads too, because you've got a lot of young people.
Yeah, long-term partnerships, like you said before.
Yeah, that's huge. Was that like did you actively pursue a sales job once you realized that could be the case, or did someone kind of approach you and then you're like, oh, this actually might really fit within my mission?
A buddy of mine approached me about it. Like, hey, my company has a food truck and come get free food. And he's like, hey, my brother's actually a manager here and he'd love to talk to you. Okay, sure. And I was like, done. Like, this is sweet. Yeah. So,
and then from there, that's where you're like, well, I'm in this industry where I'm working with a lot of young, ambitious people. And then you met with Adam and I, and we were able to kind of more aligned with your values specifically, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that and what that was like.
It's with recruiters, it's all, money and, there's personal growth and there's good people everywhere, but it's like really money focused, which is awesome. And I'm very money driven too.
Yeah.
But that was their like main message. And it didn't really resonate with me as much. And what hit me, you guys were talking about becoming a better person and focusing on values. And I just felt like the culture here, it's what I wanted to surround myself with. I was recently off a mission and I wanted to continue to live a good life. Right. And I felt like I would be in a better spot if I were to be working with people like you. So
that's cool. And I appreciate that, but also I'm just grateful that you're here because like that is, I just wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't aligned with the people I work with, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, I guess better stated, you probably always end up being aligned with the people you work with long term anyway, because of who we are as people, like you, right? And so then it's just about actually you becoming the best version of yourself so that the people you end up aligning yourself with are also trying to become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. And forgive me for the way I phrase these is just so they do well on like reels and stuff. Mm-hmm. So you just made $250,000 at 24 years old and you have real estate investments. You help others invest in real estate. You're killing it in sales and as a manager. What can you how important is it to be aligned in your values with the company and the sales force and the people you're working with? And what role does that play in unlocking your potential to perform at a high level?
It's everything, honestly. If you're not aligned with the company, if everyone working, here at Moxie, if we're not all aligned, I mean, you waste so much mental energy being worried about things that honestly aren't really in your control. For example, the service.
Yeah.
Right. In the industry, it's pretty expected to have 20, 25%, 30% cancels, right?
People bragging about 30% cancellations.
Yeah, they were bragging about our whole region had,
we only had 30%. We're like, oh geez, dude.
You do 100 deals just to make the math easy, and you only get paid on 70 of those, right?
Yeah.
And some of that is due to training and other things, but a lot of it has to do with the quality of the service and like the back end and them actually following through.
Yeah.
With what we say we're going to do. Right. So it's a lot of energy that you save not having to worry about those kinds of things. Yeah.
That you can then expend in selling at a high level, increasing your skill set when you don't have to worry about whether or not you're lying to every customer about the service that they're going to get. Right.
Yeah.
You can then take that energy that you would otherwise have spent worrying about that and contemplating like the morality, and you can put that into increasing your skill set, maximizing the return on your time, really serving those customers at a high level. The confidence with which you speak is so much higher. I just think people grossly underestimate how much that plays a factor in their actual performance. Not just, for me, it's actually just the most important part of it is how it plays into their soul and who they become as a person. The worst thing you could do is get in the habit of knowing that your managers are telling you to say something that's not actually true at the end of the day, continuing to say it and turning a blind eye to whether or not that actually affects you, because it totally does, right? It's like the willful ignorance of it all. Yeah. So that's, I think, the most important pillar of it is actually who you become and what that means for you. But the downstream byproduct of it is you just end up actually performing so much better,
100%. It just makes it so much easier to buy in.
Yeah.
And when everyone's bought in, just the culture is incredible.
Yeah, it's huge. Okay, dude. So this is something
last summer, especially.
Well, and how much did you X your sales performance personally this last year?
2X'd.
Yeah. So you doubled
my sales per day average. Yeah.
Doubled your sales performance from the previous year, and had the highest revenue per rep of any like singular group in the company, right? Just revenue per rep per day sold, basically average.
I think so. Yeah.
From what I remember specifically in the numbers, that was the case.
Yeah.
Okay. At the risk of going down more of a sales tangent, I actually want to ask you more about real estate, just because it's again more relevant to you because of your expertise than other people. But right now we're in like a really weird, interesting like real estate climate. What are your thoughts on just the markets right now? What you see? Because you have better access and insights due to the fact that even by virtue of the fact you have access to MLS versus other people, right? You actually see what's going on in the markets. Just tell me your general thoughts on real estate market as a whole right now and what people should be doing in terms of investment or preparing to invest.
Cool. Yeah, I love this question. So, man, where do I start? It's like you said, it's a crazy time. Interest rates have shot up. Double, triple to what they were.
What's the average interest rate right now for home loans?
It depends on, a bunch of factors, but I was
like
looking
6,
today,
7.
it's like 6-ish. We just saw, honestly, like a really big drop recently in like the last week or two in interest rates, which is good. We're seeing a lot of the last couple of months, there's been a lot of like price cuts on homes. So I get notifications all the time like, oh, price cut. I get like tons of emails saying, oh, price cut. And a lot of people are like, oh no, the market's going to crash. No, we're going to go into a depression. It makes me kind of laugh a little bit when people are so sure that we're going to go into a depression like worse than we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like mentors that I have that are really successful in real estate and just the financial services in general. They're smart enough to not make definite predictions. They're like, this is what we're seeing based on some things. So this is a possibility, but like you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with real estate. You never know.
Right.
And people will say, oh yeah, my prediction was right, but they don't say that till after something actually happened. And
For sure.
They get lucky, honestly.
For sure.
So my advice to people that are wanting to invest in real estate, I get all the time like, hey, is now a good time to buy? And the fact is it's always a good time to buy, but it depends on like what your goals are and the avenues that you take. Like right now, conventional financing, it doesn't really make sense for a lot of people. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers and investors, and unless they're doing 20, 25% down, 30% down or more, like the numbers won't really work. So
you just in terms of your mortgage payment alone, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean, you're going to be paying 40-50% more a month for the same house, even though the price is down simply because of interest rates. And so like, if you can't afford the house, and don't buy the house, right? As a general rule.
And it depends on the market too, honestly. In some places, obviously rents are more. Like if you've heard of the 1% rule, the 1% rule doesn't really apply in Utah. It's more like an appreciation market, I would say.
Describe the 1% rule so people understand.
So it's okay. So say you buy a $400,000 house, right? The 1% rule is, hopefully you can charge $4,000 in rent.
So 1% of the price of the home should be what you're able to charge for rents.
So pretty much just to give me an idea, it's like the half percent rule here in Utah, where you buy a $500,000 house, you can maybe charge $2,500 depending on where.
Yeah, it's like one of the properties that I own is worth now. We bought it for $300,000. It's worth like $470,000 now, and I'm like, thinking like I could never charge $4,000 a month for rent for this thing. I couldn't even finagle my way into that math by like jerry rigging it and stacking like 5 people in a bedroom or something. It's like
which a lot of people do, by the way, here in Utah and Pro. It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh. So
is that based on the people that who are well connected in this space? Is that an indicator of inflated prices for like rental assets? If it seems absurd to be able to charge, if it seems absurd to charge 1% of the price of the home for rent, does that tell you anything, or is it just like, hey, sometimes this rule applies, sometimes it doesn't?
Honestly, don't know. It's a good question.
Because I could see
I don't feel qualified, or I would be able to give you a good enough answer to that.
And maybe anyone that did have a definite answer would probably be fooling themselves anyway. Maybe it could potentially be an indicator of just an overinflated asset prices in general, or another indicator of overinflated asset prices. Anyway, sorry, I keep cutting you off, but
that's all good. But yeah, just nowadays you have to get really creative, seller financing or just other ways to get financing to buy deals.
So if I found a deal right now, like if I wanted to buy another townhome and rent it out, what would be the options you would give me in terms of saying, hey, this is a good investment, but only if we do these things? Like let's take one of the neighborhoods that we've worked in before. So like in Vineyard, the fields at Lakeview. So there's houses right there that are going for like $430,000, $450,000. And they're 3-bedroom, not even 2,000 square feet, which is I just have a hard time believing that they're worth as much as they were even when I bought one. But
good location.
Great location, obviously. Yeah. And it's only getting better, right? So if I were to say, hey, Chris, I want to buy one of these things right now, what's the how would you walk me through thinking of options to make that deal worth it?
I'd first want to sit down and like talk to you and like figure out what your goals are. Like, what are you trying to achieve with this rental property that you're wanting to buy, right? So it all depends on returns, buy and holds. If you're wanting to hold it for 3 to 5 years and sell it, there's just a lot of factors that go into it.
So let's say I wanted to hold it forever.
Okay.
And I would like to rent it. I don't care whether I'm renting it to a single family or to students or Airbnb. I'm very flexible. I just know I want to have this asset that I'm going to have forever, to build my portfolio. So does that narrow things down enough to?
Yeah, it does. It helps a lot. Just over time, since forever, really, real estate's gone up and it'll continue to go up. So with that, my advice would be, depending on the returns that you'd want, put as much down as you'd need to cash flow a little bit, a couple $100 to at least break even, and maybe have some extra cash, to fix up different things around the house throughout the period of time that you own the property.
Yeah.
And then over time, I mean, in 30 years or whatever your mortgage is, if you want a mortgage, it'll be paid off and it'll be worth way more. So
Sure. So then all the math that I'm doing is basically to say, for this to work, it needs to, after expenses, we need to be cash flowing at least $200. I was just reading in Bigger Pockets last night, Brandon Turner's book, How to Buy Rental Properties.
Yeah.
He says he shoots for $200 cash flow per unit. And that's after obviously setting aside expenses for repairs and things like that.
That's a good rule of thumb.
So if I'm shooting for 200, I should probably I shouldn't do the deals unless I can force $200 cash flow.
It also depends. Some people have different strategies and they don't really care as much.
Do you like that strategy?
For me personally, I'm more, I wouldn't say careful, but I like the idea of having some extra cash just in case.
Yeah. So, what would you shoot for then in terms of, if I was to force cash flow in a deal like that to make it make sense, like what would you tell me for something around that price range? $450,000.
It depends on like how new the model is or the house is or unit. Because if it's newer, the first few years you don't have as much renovations or things you have to
your
fix
operating expenses are basically zero, right?
Yeah. So and property management and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I like to shoot for $200 at least.
Right.
On my first property, I bought it when I was 20. I didn't have any money, by the way. So like you don't have to have money to buy real estate. You don't.
You just found a great deal and had an investor
found a great deal, and my dad is the one, and I told him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to get into real estate. Let's do it."
Sweet.
So I lived in one unit, rented out the other rooms, and cool. I mean we cash flowed hundreds of dollars, and I lived for free, which is cool. I just managed the property, and it's awesome. Gone up $250,000.
That's awesome.
Years, so pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great. So when I was 21 years old, I had big dreams of a few things. Becoming a millionaire. By the time I was 30, that was a big goal of mine. I wanted to own my own business, and I wanted to create financial freedom through investing in real estate, startups, any other type of vehicle that would give me passive income so that I could really provide for my family and my parents in a significant way because of how much they sacrificed for me growing up. I didn't grow up in the most well-off household, and so I really wanted to create a life for my family that they could be comfortable. I'm a grandchild of immigrants, and I had a lot of people in my life that came before me that have sacrificed a ton to create the good things that I have. I wanted to create financial freedom so that I could give back and serve significantly. I thought I was going to do that by, first off, playing football in the NFL. I obsessed over football growing up, but then I quickly got cut from my college team upon arriving, basically. So then I thought I was going to do that by getting into a prominent business school and excelling there, and then, getting a high-paying job out of college. And I didn't get into any of the business schools that I applied for, and there were more than one. So I had some, learning disabilities and a couple other things that felt like held me back in that way. Bottom line, it just didn't work. So after all the failed attempts to make money and try to achieve my dreams early, I was basically desperate and just really didn't think that it would all work out. I was doing a bunch of these hourly jobs and barely making ends meet and donating plasma, all the things you do when you're a poor college kid. I had a friend approach me and say that he had made $50,000 doing a sales job during the summer in between semesters. And he was a really well-known and highly prominent athlete. I had grown up hearing about how good he was at football. And so we became friends after I got home from a mission for my church. I just trusted him. So I looked into it. I ended up doing this sales job thinking that it would just be a better way to hold me over while I really figured out how I was going to provide financially for my family and really make a big dent in my dreams. Fast forward a few years later, I was with the same company doing that job over and over again while I was going to school, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now coaching and teaching other people how to do the same thing. It completely changed my life in a way that I did not expect, learning how to persuade and influence people at a high level because you practice that day in and day out. That translated over into every other relationship and aspect of my life that I care more about than just sales. And then obviously financially being able to get well ahead of all of my peers and the other people who were not willing to make those sacrifices of doing that sales job during the summer in the off months of school. And then fast forward even more ahead, I was able to become a millionaire by 26 and have a multiple $1 million net worth by the time I was 30, upwards of $10 million plus. and invest in real estate early on in my 20s, be able to give back and help pay for mission trips and do service opportunities that I just otherwise wouldn't have had. But what I'm most proud of is being able to give my family, my parents, my wife, my immediate family, the life that they just really never had growing up. Because I think deep down, we all want to be the type of people that when all is said and done, we actually have made a difference in other people's lives. And I feel like that's actually really the deep result of what this job ended up doing for me in a way that I just did not expect. Long story short, I'm obsessed with teaching the same things to other people. And since I have gotten to management and now I'm a partner in our company, I've been able to work with upwards of over 1,000 sales reps who are young, ambitious, college-age kids mostly, who start doing this job just to pay for school, but end up finding out that it's highly impactful for every other aspect of their life. So right now we are hiring and we have limited spots available to take on of people. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description of this video or in my bio. You can check that out, apply and see if you're a good fit or a candidate for this job. We have personality profiles that can match you with income and earning potential that is very much historically accurate of people that have gone in our program before. And if you take the leap of faith and at least learn about whether this could be a good fit for you, I think you're going to be not only really impressed, but if your results are even half as good as what everyone else has gone through this program has experienced, the only problem that you'll have is that one, you didn't know about this sooner, and two, that you didn't sign up and try to do it yesterday. All right, so give it a shot. Check out the link in my bio, and I'll see you guys in the rest of the episode. Okay, well, I want to continue on this thread because it just helps to have something really tangible.
Sure.
So, it's new construction then. I'm shooting to cash flow $200 a month because it is just one unit. And that's after putting aside for OpEx, like down the road, even, right, and repairs. And I guess my question then would be like, I need to just base what I'm going to use for the down payment on whatever number gets me to cash flow $200 a month with given the interest rate that I can get on the loan itself. Right. Mm-hmm. And since I'm not living in the property, I'm going to need at least 25% down. Well, 20 at minimum, right? If it's an investment property.
These days, yeah, that's what you're looking at. Like 2 or 3 years ago when you bought your place, I mean, you could put 3.5% down or 5%, dude. Move out of new cash flow, whatever, $1,000 a month.
No chance now, right?
Crazy. Yeah.
So, I guess I'm just asking, like, you should really start with the end in mind, which is how much do you want to be cash flowing? Always. And then that really, from there, you can derive all of the other necessities. So like, and really even see if you can afford it, right?
Yeah. That's the easy way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you want to get technical and then you think, in a couple of years, I think the interest rates will go down so I can refinance and then my mortgage payment will be this. So hopefully I can get this much in rent.
Yeah. I mean, it's just never an optimal strategy to base something on something you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right.
Yeah.
Like base your assumptions on the unknown. It's like, when would that ever be a smart thing to do? Like never, right?
Yeah.
This is a weird example of this, but like, we work with a lot of young guys, obviously, guys and girls, and many who are like dating people to get married. And so I'll have, Sarah and I have been married for 7 years, and I have people approach me asking for advice on like how to go about like, it's like how to go about dating with the idea in mind that I might marry this person, like they're getting serious or something. And like, is this the right person I should be marrying? Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, I end up getting these questions a lot. And this the advice that I give them is like, it's very similar to this idea of analyzing deals, actually. It's like, don't make assumptions on your decisions based on the unknowns. So if you're saying, I love this person because I think she's going to change to be this different person later, and that's why I want to marry her, which is what everyone does, right? They're like, I just really admire this quality and it's going to turn into this. And like, I could convince her to like love working out with me or something. Like, no, nothing's changing. And the reason why that's bad is because that's a variable that you can't account for. You don't know the answer, right? You don't know if that person's going to change or not. All you know is what you know right now. And I think that's the same way with making any smart decision is like, don't base your assumptions on things that you don't know down the road. Base them on what you know now and the high probability of things that could happen. So, that's why people are asking you, is now a good time to buy? And it's like, well, we don't know when a better time is going to be to buy because we don't know, we can't predict the future. So
yeah, every single time I get this question all the time. Is now a good time to buy? Every single time I answer, like I did that training a few weeks ago or like last month or whenever it was.
Which was awesome, by the way.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, hopefully we can do more of that. But a bunch of people come up to me and it doesn't like bother me really, but it's like every single person, every time, hey, is it a good time for me to buy right now? Well, it depends. Like, what are your
always
goals?
It depends.
How much money do you have? What can you afford? Like, what do you want to do? It always depends.
Yep.
So I always give different advice to different people.
Yeah, that's great. And the real truth is that the more trued up the markets become, meaning like the less inflated they are, and the more they're kind of weeding out the chumps in the market,
the fake.
The more, the harder it is to actually do deals with no money. You know, there's in any industry right now, including real estate, there's just a lot of people that are in assets that they can't actually afford. So it doesn't surprise me when people ask this question is like, is now a good time to buy? Because what they're really asking is like, can I still buy this thing with no money? You know, can I still get away with not having to go do the work?
Yeah.
Can I still get away with not having to do the work to like increase my income and have this also cool thing, which is investing in real estate?
Yeah.
It's like, no, in a true market, you have to go produce a really good income for yourself that you can then use to buy deals. And you have to be good at analyzing those deals, and you need to make good decisions.
100%. There's never been a more crucial time in history to make as much money as possible than now.
Yeah.
Like seriously, because of what's going to happen hopefully in the next couple of years, right?
I mean, the writing is on the wall when you look at indicators, but in terms of what that actually means logistically for any of the asset markets, it's like nobody knows.
Yeah, so get prepared, people. Get prepared.
Yeah, for real though. But I mean, like, would you say cashing up is a pretty decent idea right now?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are doing that. Right?
Purely for even just the volatility's sake of like, you know, I'm you know me, I love crypto. I've been in crypto for a long time. And in fact, this week when FTX went under, I've been getting a ton of questions of like, did you have money in FTX? And like, what are you doing with whatever? And my answer has just been like, you don't make it from 2016 to now and still hold crypto without just assuming that crap like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And hedging your bets always. Right. And so, but I also see the same thing with just like all the other markets in general. It's like everyone's freaking out. It's like, well, you just have to expect this stuff to happen and be prepared. And the only way that you can be prepared is if you work on you, increase your income potential, and save money to make wise decisions.
100%. Totally.
Yeah, it's big.
You really have to understand like what your tolerance is to those kinds of things, you know.
Yeah.
And if you get emotional, if stuff like that happens, like you're screwed. You're gonna put in when, you know, everyone's hyping it up, and then when it crashes, you're gonna sell. And when it drops clear to the bottom, right? And that's when people get screwed.
Oh, dude, I lost my train of thought with the volatility. You just finished the thought for me, actually. But that's why it's like cash would be better right now, because the markets themselves, like if you just look at them, they're very volatile in all senses, right? So maybe don't put as much. I'm not buying as much new crypto right now, even though I still am dollar cost averaging always. But I'm just much less interested in that. Way more interested in having cash on hand. So that I can buy my next house for half off. It's like all the deals I send you. I'm like, Chris, when this is half off, when these are all half off, dude, we're in.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are, especially with the mentors that you roll with and are connected to, like, is there a certain class of properties or houses that kind of come down first in a crash? I studied market crashes in college. I really enjoy that subject. And it seems that the higher priced assets typically are more discounted relative to the lower ones. That's what I was going to
say, at least with single family. I can't speak for every single asset class.
Sure.
But with single family, at least the houses that are priced higher, they tend to, I would say, drop more. When you're further away from the median home price, right? Those ones will be more affected than others. I
mean, it's the same. So that trend actually was one of the things that we really went deep on in our studies, and it ends up being the same for every asset class, actually. And the fascinating reason why actually is because when there's a lot of greed in the market, that actually it puts people in assets that they can't afford.
Yeah.
And logically those are your higher price assets. Logically, those are the ones that end up defaulting first. But if nothing else, your people who want to be in those assets, but now can't because of interest rates, can't afford them. They just go back down to the median range of asset, which is, your middle-class homes, for example, or like your middle-class rents. And now you're not living in a luxury apartment anymore. You're just living in a normal apartment. And that's why rents don't get squeezed in those normal middle-class apartment complexes, but they do in the high-class ones.
Yep.
So it's kind of that. It's a pretty logical principle if you think about it, but that's why I'm excited, because it's like if I can go buy a $4 million house for $2 million, freaking done. And multiple.
I want to do that. Right? Everyone should do that.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Don't. That's actually not true, but you should do that.
Anyway,
but yeah, for commercial and stuff, the prices of commercial, it's all dependent on the net operating income and cap rate and stuff like that. So a little bit different than residential.
Yeah. And dude, that's a whole nother topic, because we've talked about this for a minute of doing some apartment deals and stuff. But well, dude, I think we're gonna just call it there, because we could go on and on, but I like the subject matter that we've discussed. And I guess, do you have any final thoughts or just advice for people who are like, well, actually, let's think of this way. Someone young, ambitious, 21, 22 years old, really wanting to make a dent in their future financially. What roadmap would you give them to be successful financially and to really start investing in a way that they could build something for themselves long term?
Yeah. And this is advice that I've heard from people that are extremely successful is, do something like a sales job where you can make a lot of money, where you actually can put yourself in a position to invest, right? And put yourself around people that are like-minded, that, have experience investing and get into it that way. But what I tell people to, at least recently with the markets and stuff, if you don't have, if you only have $50,000 or $100,000, you're way better off investing in yourself, because you are your best asset, and you're not going to get better returns anywhere else investing in real estate, stocks, businesses than you are in yourself.
Yep.
So you have to be the kind of person that you are the asset. So invest in your skills and whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be sales. It can be anything, right?
Yeah.
That will give you the best returns.
That's huge.
So that's what I tell people.
Dude, fantastic advice. Because there is no investment in an asset unless you have first invested in yourself and increased your ability to earn income required to invest at a high level.
Yeah, and you can if you only have that much, but it's great. You're not gonna get rich off of one investment, right? Yeah. You can make some money, but you're gonna have way better gains for the rest of your life and the future if you do invest in yourself.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I haven't calculated this in a long time, but I used to keep track of how many dollars I had spent on investing in myself. Yeah. And I really at first only considered that to be any time I gained knowledge or paid to gain a new skill set. But now I'm realizing that what I do to invest in myself actually encompasses far more than that, including health optimization and other things. So, but at one point, dude, this was 5 or 6 years ago, I had already spent $150,000 to $200,000 on investing in myself. And that was from everything from books, high level courses, one-on-one coaching and training with people who were better at the thing I was trying to do than me. And you're talking about I was 20. So I became a millionaire by the time I was 26, and I had already spent, 150 grand on investing myself at that point.
Yeah.
But you just reach this tipping point. It's much like investing in general with actual capital. When you invest in yourself, you reach this tipping point where suddenly your income ability grows so quickly because of the new skills you've acquired that it's hard to know what to do with the increased capital as it comes in. But that only happens when you spend the time investing in yourself and the capital investing in yourself.
That's why I'm here, dude. I want to talk to you. We can talk about this later, but I want to ask you what happened when you did invest those large lump sums of money into investing in yourself, like you said.
What does that look
coaching calls and all of that, and what kind of returns you got from that on. I'd be really curious and interested to see how.
Dude, that'd be an awesome episode in and of itself. The short of the story is that any of the big results that came from that were all lagging results. And so you actually have to have this long-term mindset of like why you're doing it and have very specific reasons of what skills you're trying to acquire, which I tried to be meticulous about. And so, you know, like I felt like I had a pretty big discrepancy in who I wanted to be in terms of sales skills versus who I actually was. And multiple years in a row, I probably spent $20,000 to $30,000 on everything from courses to one-on-one training to things like that. And much of the training that I spent money on was actually garbage. But I didn't know that until I actually did the deep dives, right? So one of the biggest things I walked away with from spending that money on investing in myself and the time and effort to like go read and understand and really like diagram what would work from a training perspective. One of the biggest things I walked away with was just knowing what was good and what wasn't. Because if you don't do that deep dive to gain high level skills, you never understand who the real experts are, you know? So now I could go listen to anyone. I'm like, that guy knows what he's talking about. That guy has no clue. And the guy that has no clue what he's talking about, he probably blew up on TikTok and social media, just like the guy that does know what he's talking about. But because nobody's done the real deep dive to actually invest in themselves, they're going to go follow this crap advice from someone that's getting a ton of views because they're charismatic, you know? So that doesn't necessarily directly answer your question, but the short of it really is that like they were lagging results. I mean, you don't see the return on those investments right away, but I suppose any good investment, especially in yourself, is always going to have the biggest returns long term. And if you're making the decision on whether it's worth it to invest in yourself in the short term, then you're just not going to see the results right away. You'll be satisfied with who you become, and the knowledge that you gain is really exciting at the time, but you have to make long-term decisions when that stuff is at play.
Yeah. How long, sorry, I know we're wrapping up soon. I'm just curious how you know, just based on what you said, you know, the lagging results, how long was it for you to like start seeing those results? Was it a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
Let me give you a tangible example. So I had 2 sales seasons where I felt like even though I was managing the top offices in the country, I was not happy at all with our average sales results per sales rep. Yeah. And I attributed that to my inability. It was basically management and leadership flaws within myself. Some of them were actual belief systems that were down regulating the results. Other factors that made me not proud of those results were actually just me lacking skills. And so what I did was went and diagrammed and said, okay, so what is actually my goal here? Like what metrics would I be really proud of as a leader, as a manager, as a business owner, as a partner, as a sales coach, right? And I determined that I would be very proud if we had a certain revenue per rep, right? So I decided what that was. Average per rep across the board, not just in one team or one office, but like the whole country. And then I asked myself, okay, the guy that's leading this group, what skill set does he have? Like, let's just think through this logically. Like, clearly he's going to be very good at training protocols that scale really well. So that guy's going to need to understand not only how to get high performers to succeed even higher, but he's going to need to boil those down into principles that anybody could apply to achieve higher results, because there's no way that guy's flying across the country like every day and manually forcing everyone to sell at that level, you know? So you're going to need to be able to scale principles of sales and teach them in a way that's effective, motivating, but also universal. Okay. And I realized I lacked that. And so as I started diagramming what I wanted this guy to be, or what this guy would be like that is managing this high level sales program, I just clearly saw discrepancies in who I was versus who that person was. But then that also gave me the answers of what skills to invest in. Yeah. And so again, I'm not directly answering your question yet, but I'm getting there. So then I was like, one of those was like, okay, I actually started to realize I don't really understand the psychology of decision making from a sales perspective. So I went and bought every single book I could find on that. every Audible I could find on it. I listened to every podcast I could possibly listen to on it. I studied all the subject matter related to that idea. And then when I found things that weren't related to directly to sales, but they could help influence that idea, I also studied those. And then I went and bought courses from sales people on it. And one of like 20 people that I bought courses from even talked about the psychology of sales from the fundamental principles way. And so that's how that happened anyway. So then I started to develop some training protocols around it, tested those with a small group. That's one of the reasons why I led that personal team that was actually your first summer. So the lagging results of me determining that was probably a 2 to 3 year process of one, understanding the faults and the discrepancies, getting clear on what I needed to gain in terms of skill set, purchasing the skill sets necessary, to think of it that way, and the painful process of that, and then taking those principles, mapping them out and using them to see if they work and test them against like reality, right? Like, does this stuff actually work? And then once I realized that it worked, I was like, oh frick, dude, like I think we got something awesome here. So then developed training materials and courses around it. And I would say right now, I'm over about like, I think it's about 35 million in revenue right now, although it grows every day because we're really good at our jobs. And a large portion of that has been due to that process for me personally. And so, 2 to 3 year lagging results of it, but like we'll continue to see exponential increases.
Oh yeah.
You as a sales leader in our sales program will have a 50, 100% increase in your ability to go scale as a leader because of what I just said about what I did personally. Yeah. And then when you do your own versions of that with your people, it makes it even better, obviously. But
yeah, for sure.
Roundabout way of answering that.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if you want to have better returns, best returns in the world, come here. Work at Moxie. It's free, right?
Exactly.
If you don't have any money, work for free, work with Hayden, and just grow.
With Chris.
Grow with Hayden and Chris.
Hayden and Chris.
Buy real estate.
That's what we want. Grow with Hayden and Chris.
Buy with Chris.
Buy with Chris. Yeah, dude, that's a freak. We could take a whole line of a whole podcast on that subject matter. It's really interesting. Anyway, love you, man. It's a pleasure to work with you. It's a privilege, absolute honor. And, I'm grateful that you're able to accomplish your dreams and vision of helping people provide stability for their lives through investing and the financial freedom that comes from that. But I'm also just really grateful for what you're teaching your sales reps in the sales program in general and the example that you are to them. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Couldn't do it without you.
Well, we couldn't do it without each other. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, that's good. It's freaking awesome.